The Baltimore Ravens just strengthened their grip on the AFC North, and they didn't even have to lift a finger to do so. We talk about how it happened, as well as Zay Flowers teasing a new part of his game. All that and more coming up on Locked On Ravens.
You are Locked On Ravens, your daily Baltimore Ravens podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into another edition of Locked On Ravens, your daily Baltimore Ravens podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Oestreicher of Ravens Wire, here with you on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks so much for being here, making Locked On Ravens a part of your day and your first listen each and every single day. Free and available on all podcasting platforms, including a video form on YouTube where you can like and subscribe to the channel, and an audio form where you can follow along and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts 5 days a week here on Locked On Ravens. Of that day, the Ravens coverage plus some bonus episodes on the weekends, and we get some headlines on the weekends. Also, we go live after every Ravens game and after every single piece of Ravens big news. And shout out to all the everydayers, the first-time listeners, and if you're somewhere in the middle, thank you as well. Here with us today on the Taco Tuesday, it is former Baltimore Ravens wide receiver and Super Bowl champion Qadry Ismail of Missile Training and missiletraining.com. And Q, players, they are off. They're getting ready for the start of training camp, which is coming up in now less than a month. It's crazy. I mean, happy July, first of all. It's crazy how it seems like we haven't watched Lamar Jackson and this team play in years, but it also feels like it was just yesterday we saw the Ravens fall to Buffalo. Time is flying, and it feels like it's not flying at the same time.
Yeah, it's crazy because I think what I've realized since, good God, retiring way back in the day, but then also jumping into the media, just how fast you blink, and now you're talking about the Super Bowl. Oh, now you're talking about year two. Oh, now you're talking about, and it just keeps on going. And so for me, I appreciate every level of it. Crazy enough, YouTube, my algorithm, spit out the first edition of the Ravens when they were on Hard Knocks, and I say they because Qadry Ismail, was on Hard Knocks, and Qadry Ismail, who my son, he was, good God, like just 18-month-old, running around, just cracking me up and just having the time of his life. Now he's in the league and he's with the Las Vegas Raiders. And so I've learned to appreciate the eras of football, the different young men that have gone through it, especially in the greater Maryland, Baltimore area, where I have seen these dudes play high school, go to college, come out and just be balling, and just appreciate that, because blink now, another season and another era is going to pass. So I'm soaking it all in, and the fact that Lamar Jackson 8th season is just mind-boggling to me, because it feels like he just got here, but even he himself was like, I'm not a vocal guy, I'm not a leader in that regards. I'm like, hey, let's go out there, let's do it. Now he's like, man, I got these young guys, I gotta talk to them and get them to understand and buy into what it is like. So all of it, just all that dynamic makes me appreciate the way in which the seasons go and not take a single moment of it for granted.
Yeah, and on the Kevin Hart interview Lamar did, just to kind of piggyback off what you said there, Q, you're right. He's like, yeah, I'm not that guy that's going to be up in your face, rah-rah, Roquan Smith, Ray Lewis, middle of the huddle guy. But there's so many. I called him on yesterday's show, Q, the triple crown of being a leader. The player that he is, he leads by example. Off the field, he leads there as well. And just the person he is, right? And the personality, everything about Lamar Jackson. Yeah, he might not be the biggest vocal guy and hyping everybody up and screaming and yelling, but there are many other aspects of being a leader, and that has certainly helped this team. And time does fly. The fact that Lamar is going to be 30 at the end of next season, not this season, next season, is just absolutely unbelievable. And honestly, it does not feel real to me. But speaking of time flying, and feels like this offseason certainly has, Q, the Ravens are favored to win the AFC North. they are a team that to me should be favored to win the AFC North. And that prospect to me got a little bit better on Monday with a blockbuster deal between the Miami Dolphins and the Pittsburgh Steelers. You get the news that Jalen Ramsey's being traded to the Steelers, and everyone's like, okay, good move for them, right? Great. I wonder what the return is. And then you hear, well, the return is Minkah Fitzpatrick, and you're like, wait a minute, no shot, this is the deal here. And then it's then added in, well, Jonnu Smith is also going to Pittsburgh in the deal, along with a late-round pick swap. So the final terms of this deal, Q, Jalen Ramsey and Jonnu Smith plus a 7th-round pick are coming into Pittsburgh. Going out, it is Minkah Fitzpatrick and a 5th-round selection. Now, I think to me, Q, there are a couple ways you can look at this. First of all, Minkah had fallen off a little bit over the past couple of years. Still a really great player, but I think the impact and the production wasn't to where Pittsburgh needed him to be. I think Jalen Ramsey, you see the production also fall off for him. There were questions about how he was being used in Miami, and clearly that was an irreparable relationship. Jonnu Smith provides a lot of versatility here, but I just worry for Pittsburgh, Q. Minkah being as versatile as he was, he essentially was their Kyle Hamilton of he can move all around, he can play up at the line here or there. Jalen Ramsey, I wouldn't be shocked if Pittsburgh experiments in moving him to safety. He's a very good run defender. He's able to get the ball and get it in his hands and force turnovers that way. But I don't know. I don't love this deal for Pittsburgh. You know, Jalen Ramsey is 2 years older than Minkah, or at least he's older than Minkah is. And it just feels like Pittsburgh is really trying to load up for like this 1 year stretch with Aaron Rodgers, or 2 year stretch, maybe a year with Aaron Rodgers and a year without. How are you feeling about this deal? Maybe you like it better than I do, but I don't know how I feel about it.
I'm kind of feeling it's a good deal. I think if you look at Jalen and what he can bring to the table, if in fact he has a lot of wear in his tires with the different injuries, but if he can be that healthy corner, like you can't have enough good corners. And yes, it wouldn't necessarily be a true safety kind of conversion, but more along the lines of what we see in defenses today, where you got a lot of hybrid, like a positionless. Thank you. What the Ravens, Zach Orr has been saying is positionless defense. I think Jalen has that kind of savvy to be able to do that. Of course, Jonnu Smith, I think for him as a tight end, you need to kind of keep up with the Joneses. And if you look at Gesicki, if you look at Likely and Andrews, basically David Njoku, like, what are you doing in Pittsburgh? Who's our guy? Who is the guy in Pittsburgh? Oh man, his name is slipping my mind. But you got this other guy, Pittsburgh. What is he? 6'6", 270. And he's their backup tight end. And it's funny because
Darnell Washington.
Thank you so much. And the reason why is because when I'm watching him play, it's like, man, sometimes he plays his size and sometimes he doesn't. And I think for Pittsburgh, like you just said, when it comes to, hey, we got a small window here. We know Aaron Rodgers is probably going to be his last year. Even he said it. Let's shore up this defense. Play a little bit better. I think for Minkah, probably, his time is come and gone. And I think for him, he'll return back to where he came, ironically enough. But I think where, both Smith and Ramsey being a Steeler can be really pivotal for this ball club, even if their roles aren't as flashy and splashy as we had once thought they were when they were in their prime.
Yeah, I think for everybody involved, Q, like every single player, both Miami and Pittsburgh side, these are not the prime. Oh, Johnny had a career year last year, but I'm talking more about the Ramsey and the Minkah part of this. I just think that both guys needed fresh starts. I think it's kind of funny that Minkah requested out of Miami and is now going back to Miami in this deal years later, right? Funny how those things work out. To me, I worry about the identity loss on defense, right? Because even if Minkah wasn't giving you the production that I think Pittsburgh got used to over the first couple of years he was there. I mean, this is a guy that is a multiple-time Pro Bowl. And look, we know Jalen Ramsey has the pedigree and the accolades, and he's someone that I still respect as a cornerback. I think that even when he is healthy, he can be a top 20-ish guy. But you have Joey Porter Jr., Jalen Ramsey, you get Darius Slay in the building, you have Juan Thornhill and Deshaun Elliott back there. Deshaun had a career year for Pittsburgh last year. I'm not saying that Pittsburgh, this deal, they're going to be a 5-win team now. This just takes them off. No, not at all. Not at all. Now, if TJ Watt gets traded, that's a whole different conversation. We'll have to revisit that. But I'm just curious to see how Pittsburgh reinvents themselves here, where it's not going to be a total reset, but I think Minkah, I almost compare it to a glue guy of sorts. I just think Pittsburgh to me is they're in neutral here, Q, where like I thought adding DK Metcalf next to George Pickens was really nice. I thought that was a big move for them, but then they move off of George Pickens, and I understand why they did it, but you go back to, last year, Q, it was just George Pickens and friends, and now it's just DK Metcalf and friends. And then, you bring in Jalen Ramsey, like really good player when he's healthy. We'll see him and Minkah and Joey Porter. No, well, now Minkah's out of the door. And so it's like, it feels like they're taking a step forward and then just taking the step right back into, I don't think that, they're not retaining enough talent while adding, to me, to see the vision. I mean, Aaron Rodgers would have to be much better than Russell Wilson was. And while Russ certainly fell off towards the end of the season, I think my ranking still, it doesn't put them below Cincinnati for me. I still think with Pittsburgh, you got to give them the respect, much like you do with Baltimore in terms of them being solid, stable organizations. But here's the thing, Q, and I want to get to this on the other side of the show, wrapping up this conversation. It kind of signals a shift from what we've noticed Pittsburgh do over the handful of seasons here. So we'll talk about that coming up, because for Baltimore and for Pittsburgh, they've been mentioned in that same breath of like, hey, not a lot of splashy moves, but Pittsburgh straying away from that here. So stay tuned. Plenty coming up on Locked On Ravens. First, the show is brought to you by Monarch Money. Ever wish managing your money felt easier? With Monarch Money, it can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. So you can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building your wealth. And having everything in one app with Monarch makes everything so much easier for me. I've had so many different apps doing so many different things financially, but with Monarch having it all in one place, it makes it a lot easier to figure out everything that I have to do and all of my goals. It's right there in front of me. And a goal I've been getting serious about is saving more, and Monarch helps me achieve that in really great ways. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNFL for half off your first year. Back on Locked On Ravens, Kevin Oestreicher and Qadry Ismail still here, reacting to the Ravens' perspective of the big blockbuster between the Dolphins and the Steelers that happened on Monday. Again, Minkah Fitzpatrick going to Miami for Jalen Ramsey and Jonnu Smith. I think giving Pittsburgh a big three at the cornerback position, assuming everybody can stay healthy and at least have decent seasons, that's something you have to think about there. But the same time, the Ravens have a big three of their own in Zay Flowers, Rashod, Bateman, and DeAndre Hopkins that will be ready to play against those guys. Jalen Ramsey can move around to the nickel position as well to help alleviate some of that concern there. I mentioned Pittsburgh's secondary. How do you view Pittsburgh now versus Baltimore specifically? We know that they have guys that can match up with Pat Freiermuth and Jonnu Smith, whether it be a Kyle Hamilton, Marlon Humphrey playing big in the slot. So while Jonnu adds an extra weapon to that offense, and while Jalen Ramsey gives them versatility in the secondary, do you still think Baltimore has two over on Pittsburgh with these moves still?
Isn't it interesting, though, that, Pat Freiermuth now has a running mate, I think, that is worthy and comparable, maybe not as high as a level of Isaiah and Mark Andrews, but they're there. Like, they both have made some strong plays. I saw Jonnu, he's making some plays down there in Miami. And, of course, when you look at what Freiermuth has done, he's established himself,
Sure.
And I think that model, that copycat league, hey, we need to get in 12 personnel, 13 personnel, you got to have talent to be able to do that. And I think this is probably a keeping up with the Joneses type of a move for the Pittsburgh Steelers. In their division, they have some really good, strong tight ends. In their division, of course, Trey Hendrickson got a figure it out. And, of course, TJ Watt got to figure it out. But they have some really good rush ends to get after these elite level quarterbacks. And you add Aaron Rodgers, 40 years old, whatever, doesn't matter. Tom Brady broke the mold. But you add these elite level quarterbacks into the mix, and you got to get after the quarterback. And those quarterbacks are like, you can't, because we're going to attack you down the middle with our tight end play. So you see that yin and yang, and I think that's where you add in a Jalen Ramsey that kind of has that swagger. Joey Porter Jr., I'm sure, is going to be happy about that. Elliott, he's going to be another year improved and more comfortable within the defense. I think this is one where you just can't sleep on Mike Tomlin and what they're all about.
You're a little more bullish on it than me for the Steelers. And hey, you know what? That's why I love the conversation, because we can bounce back opinions and ideas off of each other. And I completely agree with what you're saying here, where this division needs some more juice. This will certainly add some more juice to a lot, not just Ravens Steelers, but Steelers Bengals. And you mentioned, like, not just the tight ends that the teams in this division have, but you look at the wide receiver groups from the Steelers perspective. I 100% agree, though. I think the point that you made that I want to talk about more is keeping up, right? Because I think all the teams in the division right now, Q, are chasing the Ravens. I think that's 1,000% correct. The Ravens are looking ahead, right, to a Super Bowl. They are not focused on the teams that are behind them. They will welcome any challenge. They will welcome any team that comes into their stadium where they have to go play. But I think truly, these moves are made with Lamar Jackson in mind, or with the Ravens in mind. And it's not the only motivational factor. I mean, there are reports that the Steelers weren't actively looking to trade Minkah away, but they would listen on offers, and they thought this was a good enough value, getting a guy in Jalen Ramsey who, in a better situation, could work out for them. And then a guy in Jonnu Smith, who it felt like he was linked to there for a while. So I'm not necessarily shocked by it. But I do think with the ability that the Ravens have to match up defensively, especially with Jaire Alexander coming in multiple different ways, endless possibilities, Q. You and I have talked about that Marlon line multiple times now. It is still true. And then on the offensive side of the ball, I think Pittsburgh will be a competitor. Wouldn't be shocked if they get into the wild card again, or if they compete and they start off strong, because they have a talented roster. But I just think that the Steelers got a little worse in this deal, because I'll say it again. I worry about them and their identity. Maybe they'll prove me wrong, right? That's the beauty of sports, right? You can have questions and then a team will answer them for you, whether in a positive or negative way. But I'm interested to see how it all plays out. Speaking of the wide receivers in this division, Q, the Ravens, as I mentioned, have pretty good trio in Zay Flowers, Rashod, Bateman, and DeAndre Hopkins. And I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this with your experience being an NFL wide receiver. Zay Flowers, he was in a car. This clip went viral on Monday. Zay was talking about how he's running straight this year. He said, quote, I'm running straight this year, y'all. I'm running straight. No more cutting. Mentioned how people tell him he cuts too much. And we know, Q, sometimes Zay works backwards to go forwards, but sometimes when you do that, you get yourself into some trouble. We've seen Zay work vertically in that regard and him get tackled, like he has a first down, then he jumps 2 yards behind the first down marker to try to break it on the outside, but someone will come catch him there. So Zay here is saying, hey, no more of that, no more cutting. He's running straight. Now, Zay and his agility and his elusiveness, Q, I think in moderation, the cutting is great, but what do you feel about Zay's comments here that he's not going to be, I guess, focusing on cutting and just trying to get the yards that are in front of him, I guess?
Honestly, this is a tough one, because as a receiver, all receivers have their little thing that they do, their strength, this is what makes that guy. An Isaac Bruce type of a player, and Isaac wasn't as quick and shifty. Oh, God, there was the greatest show on turf. His name is slipping my mind, but he was their slot guy, and literally, like, he would make guys miss and the whole nine. And I mean, he was just dynamic. And I apologize for the viewer for me slipping my mind. But you know what? You got Google. So what you're going to do is you're going to Google up the greatest show on turf. Then you're going to look for who are the receivers. And we know Torrey Holt. We know Isaac Bruce was two of them. And there's a third receiver. And that dude reminds me of the current day Zay Flowers. There. There's your homework assignment. Locked on Ravens, people, woohoo, let's go. So anyway, I digress. When you have that different kind of guy and the way in which he moves, like as a coordinator, as a receiver coach, you got to let that blossom, but you also got to like allow him to grow his resume, allow him to expand his repertoire as a receiver. And I think Zay did that last year when he was making some downfield, intermediate to deep route style catches for himself. The run after catch, yes, there were times where I was like, please don't cut back. And he just did his thing and he actually scored. Where there were other times where he cut back, it's like, oh, okay. Ooh, oh, all right. That's where it was at. And so it's like this delicate balance of, hey, man, we've seen what you can do. And you've made so many guys miss in short, tight spaces. But there's also something to be said about taking it to the house and being able to stop on a dime, make a guy miss, but keep going that north and south. So if he's figuring it out, let him figure it out.
We're going to do the homework assignment right now. I have the roster up for the Rams. So Torrey Holt and Isaac Bruce, we know those guys. I don't know who it is, so I'm going to read them off. Is it Ricky Prohl?
No.
Tony Horn?
No.
Chris Thomas?
No.
Isaiah Hakeem?
Say that name again.
Isaiah Hakeem?
What number was he?
81.
Yes.
Okay. Boom. Look at us. Look at us, Q.
Homework. Done. Ricky Prohl was Mr. Clutch. Catcher in the slot, can do some stuff. So, yeah, he wasn't Zay Flowers. And there's no disrespect to Ricky Prohl at all. I mean, Ricky, that dude could play. He was a baller. No question about it. Very dependable, had great hands, but like make guys miss, was just a route assassin. Whereas I think for Zay is just a really twitchy, explosive style of player. Two different players.
Everybody's different in a way. You can make comps to guys, right? But I think that for a player like Zay who has that twitchiness to him, he's someone that I think he gives defenses fits. And the crazy part about those, vertical plays where he'll go back and jump behind the first down marker is sometimes it works for him. Like he will make defenders look silly. And so I think that's what I was saying earlier. Like in moderation, you can do something like that, but you don't want to use it too often because then that becomes your calling card. And then teams will be like, oh, just wait for him to jump back. And then, we know what's coming there. But, you mentioned the growth for Zay Q. What do you think his ceiling is for this season? We saw a great jump from year 1 to year 2. He was making an impact as a rookie. This is year 3 for him. I think that the potential for him is sky high, especially when you talk about players like Bateman and Hopkins, Mark Andrews, Isaiah Likely, Derrick Henry taking up attention. The defense can't focus in on him. And if they do, well, good luck. You're getting beat by somebody else. So what do you think the ceiling is for Zay this season? Because I really think it is sky high.
I think this year Zay is going to see the game slow down in ways that he didn't expect. It's going to slow down for him when it comes to releasing off the line of scrimmage. It's going to slow down for him when it's going to be a primetime game and he's going to walk away with 6 to 9 catches, 2 of them going for 30-plus yards. His red zone prowess is going to jump up even more so. He's on a better page with Lamar, and it's only going to get better. I think for him this year, if last year was his Pro Bowl year, this year, if things go according to plan, it would not surprise me if Zay gets in the conversation of the upper tier guys of first or second team All-Pro. So All-Pro is the entire league. And we know there are some dudes that are some dudes, but I believe he can be one of those dudes. I think that because of the Ravens' schedule, he's going to be asked to do more. And I believe Zay is going to more than deliver. I think that's the kind of mindset that he's going to have going into this year.
Yeah, I mean, and we know that for Zay, he's a hard worker. He's someone that is always trying to improve his game. And we saw the clip. I think it was literally Sunday or Saturday where he was zigzagging up that hill, right? And you could see the boom, boom, boom. Like the movement for Zay is there. It looks fluid. He's getting stronger. And I think the big part of it, Q, it's something Lamar has mentioned plenty of times, but the game's slowing down for him. And that. Did you have a moment where you thought the game was slowing down for you? Like, do you have a specific moment you're like, oh, hey, wait, this is a little easy now. I think I might have it figured out. Did you have that moment?
Yeah, 1999 when I signed here with the Ravens after going through my wilderness experience. None of y'all were born. But when I was going through my wilderness experience and I came from the Saints here to the Ravens, and I was like, you know what? I don't care. I've seen it all. I understand it. Let's go. And the game literally, like, that was the year, I had my 1,000 yards receiving, the whole 9 yards. The Pittsburgh game, we were 258 yards receiving, 3 touchdowns. All 3 touchdowns were over 50-plus yards. You could have thrown man-to-man, all-out blitz, zone coverage, different zone looks, all of it. Didn't matter if it was a primetime game. Didn't matter if it was an early game. I didn't care. Like, all right, what do we need to do? Let's go out there and do it. I had my routine as far as my post-game recovery and what I wanted to do to get my mind right. I knew, what I needed to do as far as just preparing and seeing the film and watching it and, what to expect from quarter to quarter, all of it. It just – man, when that game slows down, you walk to the line of scrimmage, you just start smiling.
Sometimes all it takes is just snap of the fingers, and it feels that way. And then, it gets progressively easier sometimes, even where it slows down more and more and more. So coming up in the final part of the show, we'll talk a little bit about the tight ends position a little more. Mark Andrews, or the Dolphins, an actual landing spot for him after trading Jonnu Smith. We'll get back on the Mark Andrews trade conversation and a lot more next on Locked On Ravens. Back on Locked On Ravens, Kevin Oestreicher and Qadry Ismail still talking with you here. Q, it feels like we've been talking about the possibility of this team trading Mark Andrews for months and months and months. And why does it feel that way? It's because, we have been talking about that. And I thought it would die down a little bit after the draft, right? It really doesn't make sense in my eyes to trade Mark away after the draft. You're not getting really any return on the value there, in my opinion. But we had Ian Rappaport a couple of weeks ago reporting that there is still trade interest in Mark Andrews. He said there's still trade interest from some teams the Ravens have not bitten, however. But now that conversation has been rekindled after Jonnu Smith gets traded, and the reports are now Miami's in the market for a tight end. And obviously with Isaiah Likely in the fold here, Q, everybody is pointing to a couple of names, Mark Andrews being one of them. I just want to have this conversation with you because I said it on my show yesterday when I did it solo for Monday. I said it doesn't make sense to trade Mark. I just think having his production, he's still a top 5 guy, in my opinion, is not worth getting a late round pick. If you're talking a second rounder, then maybe we can have a conversation about it. But anything at least less than that, I'm not biting if I'm Baltimore because I think he provides too much value in a year where you want to win a Super Bowl.
So if we go back to the viral reel that you deftly edited and put together on the NOW, the now. We want to win now mantra, unless we talking like first rounder or unless we got some significant veteran that will help us win now. And kind of like I'm looking at the landscape of the defense, it looks like it's intact. Unless you're saying TJ Watt's coming through that door or Hendrickson's coming through that door, like, what are we doing? I know I have faith in Isaiah Likely. I know we are probably going to have to pay him, but if it results in me getting another ring and my franchise, that my hobby that I like to be chilling out on my yacht, chilling with 3 rings as opposed to 2, better go ahead and talk to somebody else about trading Mark Andrews. Like, no, my franchise quarterback, Number 89 is his security blanket. So if he wins a championship, he's going to change his jersey number to 1. We can talk about taking away his security blanket after that. Until then, 8 needs 89. Let's just continue down this path of now. The theme is now. I don't see a person on any other roster that will fit the now mentality. Now is the time for Mark Andrews to be on the Baltimore Ravens, period.
I'm with you. We're just going to have to start renaming this Locked On Now. That's it. Just locked on now. That's all it is. But you're right. We're like
Locked on
now. The draft capital. It'd be one conversation if you got like a 3rd or 4th rounder before the draft and you were able to spend that on somebody as a rookie that could help you this season. But I think everybody, at least this is my opinion on it, they probably cannot keep both Mark and Isaiah. This feels like the last year between those two guys. Just use the last year. That's like, have that be the last year. I don't want to see Mark move off of if it doesn't provide you immediate impact back, like you were talking about. So are you setting that it has to be a first for Mark, or you're not touching it? You're not moving him?
No. First, second. Obviously, he's not going to get. No one's going to do their franchise a disservice by trading a first rounder to the Ravens for Mark Andrews. But the market for top tight end, they would probably entertain a second round if they have a low second rounder and they're looking at their roster and they're saying, hey, we're a guy away. The Ravens, they have a gluttony of guys. We can make a trade for Mark and we'll be a guy away. Like, that is something where I don't know who are we talking about? I don't know. Like the Commanders, the Eagles. I mean, they got their guys. I don't. Who are we talking about that could even, And obviously, we're saying, the Dolphins have been in that conversational piece when it comes to playoffs and all that, but. Are they a guy away? I don't know. I don't really see that really moving the needle. I don't know. I don't see it. Are you the Falcons maybe? Who knows? Like, is Arthur Blank having, some kind of like feeling bad or of his collusion-esque type ways of looking at Lamar and saying, dang it, I shouldn't have said what I said. I should have got him. Who knows? All I know is Mark Andrews, now he's on our ball club. Let's keep
it that way. I just he provide. I get it. What have you done for me now lately, league? Or what have you done for me now, league? The last thing you see is Mark with those 2 tough turnovers turnover and drop pass against the Bills. It's rough. He hasn't been up to snuff in the playoffs, and I think we can all acknowledge that. But it's still a top 5 tight end. I'm not letting that moment define him. He's still an asset to this Baltimore Ravens team and this offense. And unless you're getting value equal to or more than Mark Andrews, which I'll spoil it now for you, Q. You're probably not going to get that at this point in the offseason. I think you let it rock, and then whatever happens next offseason. But Q, I appreciate you. Thanks for hopping on. On the way out, be sure to tell people where they can find you and what you're working on. I know you're staying busy over there.
Yeah, man. The summer months are here, and so is training. Training in a variety of ways. Training for human movement and sports performance. And if you are looking for the proper, durable human movement and sports performance, Missile Training. MissileTraining.com is where you can find me and interact with me at MissileTraining.com to understand how your body and your body mechanics can work and work better. If you're looking to get in shape, if you're looking for more durability, if you're looking to increase your speed, had a gorgeous overspeed session the other day. Some of my athletes were topping off at 22, 23 miles an hour. My collegiates, my pro guys, they were going up to 26 miles an hour in their overspeed session. Again, MissileTraining.com. If you're a team, if you're an individual, got all your needs from 6 to 85, I got you covered. At the same time, WJZ, again, you can find me on my glorious station with my guys, talking shop on Purple Pregame Show every Sunday. But at the same time every week. It is Locked On Ravens with my guy, Kevin Oestreicher, and I, as we break down everything. We're in the now season. We're in the season of this is now time for y'all to get all your Raven content now.
Be sure to do it. Tune in here, and then obviously go check Q out over at missiletraining.com and WJZ. All the links in the description down below. Q, I appreciate you as always, and thank you to everybody who watched and listened to the show today. On the way out, hit the like and subscribe button in video form. Follow along and subscribe in audio form, and I'll see you right back here tomorrow for more Ravens content on Locked On Ravens.